The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Good morning. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip, and CJ is somewhere in a bunker within the continental United States. He's not on camera right now. There he is. CJ, I don't know where they moved you this week, but you're on camera. Your audio is a bit off, too. Live television, isn't this wonderful? Well, while CJ is hooking up, I'll tell you we have a pretty good show on tap today. There are a lot of things going on in the city outside of the regular things that we have been dealing with for a very long time. The recall, the legal machinations of the mayor, and the standard that's become unfortunately the norm in the city of Fall River. Last night's city council meeting, although I was unable to attend, was pretty lively. There were a lot of debates, and it was nice to see, and refreshing actually, to see people on the city council beginning to actually care about how we spend our money in the city of Fall River. There was a very long debate about getting a huge bond to buy new voting machines, high-tech digital video screened voting machines, which I'm not really sure I'm really crazy over. Those things are subject to anybody. If they can hack NASA, I would be a little skeptical about them being able to hack voting machines. So I like the old make a mark and count it. I know it takes a little longer, and in this society of we have to get the election results within 15 seconds, that's that can be an inconvenience to some, but I prefer the old hanging Chad kind of ballots, and I think it's something that we should look at. But obviously, the good news was they actually had a pretty long debate about that issue. Councilor Mayoza talked about getting maybe some used machines from New Bedford, and then other people said we can't bond, but let's try to, make do because we have more important things to spend our money on. Now, isn't that a unique and wonderful new perspective that's finally come to the surface of our city council, and they're beginning to pay attention. And along those lines, also the Maplewood Park bond issue was voted down. Not because, let me go on record before all the Maplewood people storm the studio and try to hang us. I'm not saying it's not worthy. I'm not saying that it isn't something that we should do at some point in time, that I would like to do if we had unlimited money. But just as everything else, like you and I, we have a budget in this city, and for a long time now, the past 5 years, nobody has seemed to realize that you can't just keep spending money you don't have. If you and I have a problem, we have to fix a roof, and it's a big expense, and we were planning on buying a new car or even a used car, and your down payment went to pay for a roof, plus you're going to have to put buying that car off for a while. So we have to put off things like parks. We have to put off things like voting machines. And as far as the parks are concerned, it doesn't stop us as citizens from getting together and cleaning up parks and sprucing up parks and making them as good as they possibly can be now, And, you know, these are the kind of things that people have to do. We have to tighten our purse strings, and it's very long overdue that the city begins to look at tightening the purse strings too. And I'm going to ask CJ, are you back online? Are you?
I am here.
You are here, but your audio is still a little muffled. Would you like to weigh in a little bit in your muffled tones? So the first time you won't be accused of being too loud.
Well, it shouldn't be that muffled now. No, you know, yesterday's city council meeting was very interesting, obviously. And again, I couldn't be there either for personal reasons. But it was very interesting to see how the city council, you know, for the most part, kind of came together on a lot of issues. And I think it was necessary for the people of Fall River to see that, you know, maybe there is now an awakening within the city council, especially about money. You know, Jazel Correa said that he was going to vote for the bonding of $100,000 for the park. And he says that he looked at it from a financial standpoint. And I want to believe him because I firmly believe that he knows a lot about the finances and how to run a business. But I think that the fact that we had to bond $100,000 speaks volumes to this city's financial situation. But I will say one thing. I was actually very upset, and I think a lot of other people in Fall River were very upset. Carol Valcourt, Ken Pacheco, and others came forward about the Christmas parade, the Children's Christmas Parade, which we have had for 30 years. This is its 30th anniversary. And someone during their presentation started speaking out. And, you know, I don't see Carol Valcourt lose her cool that often. I mean, you and I have known her for a long time. She's always been a straight shooter. You know, she's never been one to mince words with people, though. And, you know, she said, this is a city council meeting, have a little respect. And, you know, that was screamed out. That was the second time during that meeting that happened. And, you know, a little decorum needs to be presented at these meetings. I understand people are right now getting infuriated. I understand people are upset. Things aren't happening fast enough for them. But we have to understand that we can't take it out on everyone in the world. And, you know, when you're sitting in that city council chamber, you need to realize when you're in somebody else's house, you have to play by their rules. And if you're not going to play by their rules, you know, there are sometimes repercussions. I haven't seen any yet, and I'm very surprised that City Council President Joe Camara contained himself in that manner. But again, I think it's going to happen, and I think we're going to have a problem with it.
Well, you know, you are right, CJ. There are, you know, there are rules, and people are, you know, there are a lot of issues going on. A lot of people are very emotional. A lot of people are getting upset. But we also have to remember what Sun Tzu said in The Art of War: know yourself and know your enemy, and you're assured of victory in 100 battles. Well, our enemy, per se, and I'm probably going to be calling him an enemy, but he is a political enemy, is the mayor. The people who were involved in the recall, the people who are trying to get rid of the mayor, you know, the enemy is the mayor. The enemy is his record as the mayor. That we feel that it's a referendum on the mayor. And to let that spill over into the city council chamber is counterproductive, in my opinion. And the fact is that Carol Valcourt happens to be someone I've had a very, very long history with. She is a former city clerk. She was the assistant city clerk under whom, in my opinion, was the best city clerk the city of Fall River has ever seen, and by everybody else who's been involved in this city for any length of time agrees, Joe Doran. Joe Doran was an amazing city clerk. He was a encyclopedia of knowledge. He was a great man and a great city clerk and a great Fall Riverite. And a credit to this community. And Carol Valcourt followed directly behind him, and she did a great job. She's well respected in the community. She was talking about something that had absolutely no political overtones. It's a children's event, and you know, it deserved nothing more than respect and commendation for what they're doing, because you don't see a lot of people doing things, especially politicians, for children because children don't vote. The fact is that, you know, people who do these things deserve it. And obviously, as someone who sat at hundreds, literally hundreds and hundreds of city council meetings, you know, I can see her being a little put out. And so she said what she said. It happened, and hopefully people are going to realize that, you know, as CJ said, when you play somebody else's game and playing in their ballpark, you have to abide by their rules, because, you know, the city council gives people more latitude because they understand that the government is the people, and sometimes people get out there, they get a little carried away, they get a little emotional, and they will give them far more latitude than anything else. I mean, if you go into a restaurant and conduct yourself the way some people have conducted themselves in front of the city council, you'd be thrown out of the restaurant, because they reserve the right to throw out any patron that's being disruptive. So, I mean, I think that they've gotten a lot of leeway, but the fact is, it doesn't do us any good. We're getting enough negative publicity from the mayor. The mayor is, you know, gone international with his, with the allegations against him, and whether he's guilty or not guilty is another issue. However, the last thing we need to do is people watching videos of the city council meeting and think it's a three-ring circus rather than a political meeting. It is not the House of Commons in Britain, although I may enjoy the way the House of Commons is run, but it is not the House of Commons. This is the United States, and there is supposed to be some form of decorum. But with that, I will get into the mayor again doing something that is not exactly accurate. I've been told that the mayor on his Facebook page and also on a city webpage, and CJ can comment on this, and your audio is still slightly muffled, by the way. The mayor put on his Facebook page about people who have been intimidated, or people who may have signed and the petition, and he wants everybody to call, and the fact is that I was called by a member of the news media, and was told very clearly that she followed up on that, and she called the mayor's attorney, and in fact, that entire thing and the implication that this was some vast kind of conspiracy or some vast undertaking, and there were a lot of people involved. This was initiated by one woman who called and said, "I heard that my name was on the petition and I didn't sign it." Well, number one, my issue is how come she heard? How did she manage to hear? Well, we've been trying to get information from the voter registration board for weeks now, and we can't get them to utter a sound to us, yet people have heard that their names are on petitions. So who outside the voting board has seen those petitions? That to me concerns me. So the fact is, if she is in fact on a petition and she wants to contend she didn't sign it, well, that's okay. It's easy enough to check.
I just find it very interesting, Chip, because it's almost insulting that the city has determined that it's quite all right for us to not get any information, but all of a sudden people are coming out saying that they're on the petition, they never signed it, they were harassed, et cetera, et cetera. And the problem I have there is this: the mayor commented that his attorney's office, the paralegal that's taking these phone calls and emails, was inundated with phone calls and emails from people saying that they never signed. Well, if you're going to declare that your signature was forged before you've even seen it, or even if it's there, how do you know it was forged? Where did you get your information? What soothsayer told you? I mean, did you go down to Sally's palm reading? I mean, I really don't know, because we don't know. We have no idea. And I know that we have copies of those petitions. We have a copy of every single petition. And I know exactly where they are. Nobody else has looked at them since they were turned in. The only person that has access to, I know exactly where they are. So nobody's going to say that we're giving that information out, because we're not. And we actually went through and verified them ourselves using our databases, which is from the Secretary of State's office. So you have to ask yourself, how did this one woman or numerous people who are calling in saying that I never signed and my signature's on the petition? How do you know? Who in City Hall is telling you?
Yeah, and you know, that is obviously the point, CJ. I mean, I am very concerned. We've tried to ascertain how many signatures are already certified. We can't get an answer. We've tried to get a definitive day on when these things are going to be certified completely. We haven't gotten an answer. And apparently the mayor has a lot of answers, but he said that he doesn't have any communication. Yet he's already said to people that they're prepared to, as soon as they're certified, to immediately go into court and try to enjoin the process with some legal maneuvers. And then we talk about, as you said, about signatures. I mean, how would you know that your name is on a petition when I don't even, the only signatures that I know are on the petitions are the ones that I secured myself, and those are all personal friends of mine and people who I knew. And the signature takers were taking people's signatures out in public, and they signed, and if they have a complaint, there is an appeal process, and if they say somebody wrote their name, maybe we can use his handwriting analysis expert to see, in fact, if that is their signature. And then we can ask the question, have you been intimidated since this process began to now disavow your signing of the petition? Have you been threatened? You know, the mayor makes these statements, and we always have to wonder, he has all this information. Is it the same information that managed to convince him that his vehicle didn't have a dashboard? Is it the same one that then he changed and said the dashboard has a slope? And now we don't know what the dashboard is. But the fact is, the mayor is very quick to come out and make these broad brush allegations for political traction, because that's all it is. Because, you know, he's supposed to be a lawyer, and you're supposed to keep, you know, evidence as close to the vest as possible. But he does these things to do one thing, and that is to detract and distract the people from the issue, which is his performance as the mayor of City of Fall River. We're going to talk about signatures, how they were gotten, time limits, were they, you know, and every other totally irrelevant issue. The relevant issue is this statute was put there to allow the people to remove someone who is not doing a job that he was elected to do for the people. And that's the last thing that Mayor Flanagan wants anybody to do. That's look at his record.
And you know what, Chip, it's very interesting, because you notice how the mayor has said they're going to file objections to the petitions, they're going to file objections to the signatures. And I always find it interesting how their legal maneuvers are, because I've read over the recall act several times. Nowhere in that recall act is there a provision to allow for objections to the petitions or the signatures. Now remember, when there wasn't anything in there about timeliness, we couldn't fall back. They said you can't fall back on the state law, so we can take all the time in the world we want to certify these signatures, which they've done. But because there's nothing in there about objections, they're falling back on the state law to file the objections. So you have to admit, you know, it's amazing how we're playing pick and choose here, and we're not getting anything or going anywhere with this.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, you know, it's the old, you know, you can have your cake and eat it too syndrome. But while we're on the subject, apparently I was told someone called a radio talk show and said that they had heard, or they had construed from our last program, or maybe the program before, that because I was talking about the difficulty in raising money and things, that I was going to, basically back away from this thing because I felt it was unwinnable. Well, if you know me, I've never backed off from anything in my life. Everybody forgets that I initiated this a few years ago, and I just waited until we had more people involved, and we're trying it. And is it, so to clarify the record, nobody's going anywhere. Well, I'm in this till the end, and I'm in it to win it. And the fact is, but we have to be realistic, we have to be objective. Is it going to be difficult? Yes. Is it going to be difficult to get, a lot of money, which we may need? Yes, and we may not be able to. Will that make this endeavor a failure? Well, if you say if we don't get them recalled, it's a failure. I don't believe it's a failure in the broad context, because we got people engaged in the process. We registered voters. We've put his record under the light and under the microscope, so people now, we have revealed the true Will Flanagan, not the one that he promoted through advertisement and selfies and pictures, and the way he was very good at it. But people are beginning to look at not his pictures, but what he's actually done as the mayor. People are now examining him. The true Will Flanagan has been revealed. Will I be happy if we quote unquote realize that old philosophy that you can't beat City Hall, you can't fight City Hall? And that adage wasn't created because it doesn't mean you were right. It means that you don't have the money to get into these protracted legal battles with cities who use your own money to fight against you. Is it going to be easy? Under the best of circumstances, it wouldn't be easy. Because after all this legal gymnastics, if we get enough money to get through this entire process, we then have another epic undertaking. We have to try to get an electorate that historically has been totally apathetic, that have had low voter turnouts, to get up on a special day and go to a special election just to do this. And hopefully, by keeping this message in the forefront about what this mayor's done, we can continue to keep people engaged, and ultimately this will rise and fall on whether the people decide they're going to get up and vote and get out and vote. And so if anybody thinks that being practical and being objective and being a pragmatist is saying that you're giving up, no, it's part of the strategy and what we have to do. We have to be realistic evaluators of what we're facing. We can't go off on tangents and start ranting about everything. We have to realize that this is an initiative that takes planning, that takes structure, that takes people doing the hard work behind the scenes, meeting with lawyers, looking at issues, dealing with a public relations strategy to get this job done. Not ranting and raving and wasting your time. This is a fact that this issue will rise and fall, not on all the people who did all the hard work, and I commend them on the recall, not on the people that are watching this show. It will be the people who are sitting at home, who never go on social media, don't listen to radio talk shows, and don't even watch Spindle City Straight Talk. It will rise and fall as if we can get the message to those people to get up, get out, and vote. And that's what this ultimately will come down to.
Chip, it's very interesting you say that, because, a lot of information keeps coming in to our newsroom, and we find out a lot of information. We received an email from Representative Alan Sylvia, which specifically said that this appearing on the November ballot with the general election for the state was left to the discretion of the Secretary of State. Had the signatures been certified
prior to the primary, which they had plenty of time to do it, it would have been possible to get it on that ballot and save $60,000 of the city, because it would have just been printing another page. But again, that didn't happen. Now, why? We don't know. I mean, did it truly take elections this long to certify 5,500 signatures? I think we mentioned this in a previous show. It's something like 227 signatures a day to certify. So, I mean, how difficult is it to do? I mean, and that's if you want to take 20 days, remember that. It just seems to be a little foolish. And I'm not saying Liz didn't do the best job that she could probably do, but again, this law specifically is time sensitive. And knowing that, they should have been certified in a fashion. The fact that the City Elections Board refused to accept the help that the Secretary of State's office offered them to complete both the certification of signatures and the primary election speaks volumes to the people of Fall River, and especially to this reporter. It's very interesting to see where things may or may not have been. And we can make a lot of assumptions. And, you know, again, we don't like to assume around here. But we have to be very realistic that we can't always see what everyone else is doing or what position they're in and who puts them in that position, which is kind of sad. It really is. You know, it really hurts the whole process. And for the mayor to turn around and say already that he's ready to stop filing the objections and stop filing the legal cases when these signatures are certified also speaks volumes, in that the mayor is kind of saying, I already know you have the signatures, I know they're all certified, we're just putting the legal defense together. And the huge question that keeps coming up, and I've been asked this several times, not only by the people of Fall River, but by investigative branches of government, where did the $100,000 plus come to retain Attorney Reddington? And where did the money to retain the SHS law firm come from? Because it wasn't in his campaign accounts. So we now have to start questioning, and I think a lot of other people are, who's paying the legal bill and where's the money coming from? The mayor doesn't own any property that we know of. You know, he didn't hit the Powerball or the mass millions. So unless he's had a relative die recently and left him $1 million, I'm not sure where this money's coming from. And that's very questionable, and we have to ask ourselves.
Well, maybe bonded it. No, I'm just being facetious. No, but as you said, CJ, you know, you know, when this is done and all is said and done, you know, the questions will never go away, because as you said, we can't assume things, but we can question things. That's, as reporters, as people who, you know, are trying to be, you know, factual when we say something is news rather than a commentary or a rumor, which we portray as that. There are going to be questions. The questions, there are also a question that and I know that you had conversations with the Secretary of State, and they offered help with the primary election, which would have freed up the election board to count those signatures in a more timely fashion. And there again, if that would have been done, it may have been done in a manner where they were prepared to be on a November ballot, and we would have not have to spend this $60,000 that the mayor is trying to say is, you know, why are we going to have this election? Why is this process taking so long? The fact is, are we wrapping up here? Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll have to save that for Friday's show. Thanks for watching. As usual, we never run out of news, and with live TV, things just happen. Have a great day, and don't forget to vote in the recall election and the regular election.